Well, I think that happens a lot, and even in real life with kids, they love, they love something, and then their parents just don't approve of it, and then it's all of a sudden like, oh, I gotta, I gotta hide this thing that I love because my parents don't approve of it.
And I also think,
and again, relatability factor.
And I also think like one of the reasons there's such a good foil is because like Diana looks at Akko and sees like this boundless joy and is like, I really wish I could have that, but I kind of have this perfectionist ability where like, I'm very technically skilled, but I don't have that. But Akko looks at Diana and she's like, I can just do all this crazy stuff, but I can't do what Diana can. And I think that's just another thing. Like anyone who has like a specific style or like a work ethic will probably envy someone else who has like their ideal version of that, but then someone else will look at theirs and be like, "Oh, I wish
everybody
I had that."
Everybody has their ideal work ethic. Like there are people who are super perfectionists that wish they could just be, carefree and whatever about everything.
And like Stanley Kubrick, everyone wishes they could be like Stanley Kubrick, this perfectionist who looks at every frame and does something new. But even Kubrick like admired people like Woody Allen who could pump out movies in a much shorter amount of time and not like once or twice a decade.
Yeah, I know, right? Once every 50 years.
Old Eyes Wide Shut.
But yeah, no, they're...
It took so long.
We can't get off on a Kubrick tangent right now. Next podcast.
That's a topic for another day.
Because I could talk forever about Stanley Kubrick stuff, but not today. Could you imagine if he directed Little Witch Academia? It would be so much fun.
No clue.
But yeah, no, I think, like, in my opinion, I feel that Diana wants to vicariously live through Akko sometimes.
Like they are two halves. They're the yin and yang, two halves of the same whole.
They're people who need to be together all the time, forever, scissoring in Fury Heaven.
It is Diana who makes Akko come back in that late part of the show.
Yeah. Hey, hold on a second.
You have Diana, her like love of magic being rekindled by Akko's passion, and then Akko being told by someone who she views as like a much more like strict and better working person who she kind of idolizes but sometimes doesn't want to admit it just because Diana is a lot more strict and a little unruly, or she not really unruly, but she just likes to enforce rules in the same way a teacher would. So like but when Diana does come to Akko and says like you inspire me, it means so much to her, because the other thing about Akko is that like she has her main influence is Chariot, but then as the show goes on, like she gains more influences. Like everyone around her becomes a source of inspiration for her and her magic. And so whenever someone like who she kind of views as like a distant figure like Diana, someone who she could never measure up to, comes to her and says something like you inspire me, it means that much more to her than like if anyone else were told that.
Then hello?
Oh yeah, what's up?
Yeah, we see you.
Oh hey, sorry, my thing like cut out. She's like so confused for a second. Yeah, I missed all of that for some reason. Like my thing cut out.
Another thing. I want to keep going. Akko's like one of the main conflicts that she faces in the earlier part is like trying to learn to be herself. Like she's always herself, but it's what she wants to be in the future. Like she has this one vision of her future, which is to be Chariot herself, because Chariot was such a big inspiration for her. As she goes along, though, she struggles or she just finds this more individualistic approach, because thanks to her friends like Lotte and Susie, and especially Ursula, who becomes a mentor to her, who encourages her to be Akko and not anyone else. Like shows her that like you don't like the point is not to be Chariot. Chariot has already done what she did. The point is to be Akko, like because what you bring to the table is something only you can do. It's something that Chariot can't do. Chariot did what Chariot could do. And so for a while that become like she has this big thing about like I could be Chariots, but then what kind of lesson would I have learned from all this time being with my friends, with my mentors, with all these people? It would have amounted to nothing. and so that she becomes more like she embraces herself more, which is great. Because like I feel like a lot of people, when you have like that one thing that you love before anything else, you like everything you think is in that style. Like when I first watched the Evangelion, all I can think of for like a movie was like big apocalypse, like horrible things happening in this militaristic directing. But now that I've like seen more stuff, I feel like I could competently compose like different things, not just enough.
Yeah. I'm just all about found footage, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
This pays off
With
a
most
lot
of that.
because like Zero, you know the twist. It's very
Yep.
Everyone knows the twist. Like they make it obvious in episode 1. Ursula is Chariot. All right, it's not a
Yeah.
spoiler. Everyone knows.
I mean, they show it at the end of the first movie.
Yeah, the end of
Don't
the
they?
first movie, the first
Yeah,
episode,
they do.
they like hint to it constantly because they want you to know like
Yeah.
it's not going to be a big reveal. It's like you know it,
No,
and it
it's-
makes Ursula's
supposed to be
character
obvious.
more sketchy for a lot of the time. But like
Yeah.
it's just this great moment where Akko figures that out, and she's just completely torn, and she just never addresses Ursula as Chariot. She's like, you've always been Ursula, like repeating that lesson that Ursula taught her about being yourself. Like
Well,
she
yeah, I mean,
Akko learns to like
that's one of the big takeaways.
yeah.
No, don't try to be somebody else. Just be yourself.
Like
Be
even
who you
though
are.
Ursula was Chariot, she only sees her as Ursula because that's the person she knows. Like she's grown up in the school knowing as Ursula, and Chariot is just this foreign thing. And the other thing is that like a lot of the things involved with Chariot become more sketchy as it goes along. And when Akko learns this, she is like very distraught about it, but she does learn like all that inspiration I took from Chariot, that magic I felt, it's still real, even if the person wasn't who I thought she was. So I'm like, she still keeps that initial inspiration, that happiness that came from all the times that she was a kid playing the card game, watching the show, and just thinking back on it, trying to fly a broom. All that was real, even if the character in a lot of ways wasn't.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I gotta head out though. It's time for me
Alright.
to get ready. Like in
Alright.
holidays, you know.
See you later, Zero.
See you later.
All right, see you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Like another thing I want to talk about. I should have mentioned this before Zero left because she's a big Yu-Gi-Oh person. But like, Akko is like used to play the Chariot card game. Like, when you're like really big into something, the Little Witch explores fandom quite a bit. I'm not sure like to how big of a degree. I'd have to rewatch it to really see like how much it goes in depth. But like, it does explore the idea of like being obsessed with something, and Akko embodies this in the way because she like collects all the Chariot merchandise, like has like posters of Chariot, has like all these card games of her. And I just want to say, like, as a person who used to be obsessed with Digimon, I have like all the cards of like all the cards to like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon and stuff. I've lived that life. I have all these Ava stuff, and it feels good to like see that character on screen constantly, like just flaunting how much she loves this one thing in everyone's face, and everyone just like, shut up. We've heard it like a million times.
I can relate to that.
Yeah. Like, you probably remember like earlier days of AA when I was just constantly talking about Ava.
Yeah, I can remember.
Still do. I still do, but like not to the same degree because now I talk about Little Witch. But yeah, what was the other thing I was gonna mention? Fuck. I don't know. What do you have to say right now?
So for what I actually can gather here, that Little Witch Academia actually shares lots of similarities with Boku no Hero Academia, because the main lead of Boku no Hero Academia, Deku, he is also like Akko. He aspires to be like the main hero. I forgot what's his name though. Really sorry about that, but
All Might, I think.
yeah, All Might. That's the guy's name. He really aspires to be like All Might, but when he finds out that he lacks the power to be like All Might, because he just lacks that certain power to even be a superhero, that actually crushes him. But it's through hard work and determination that's how he managed to rise through the ranks and just become a superhero himself, and to the point where even All Might recognize him that says, "Deku, you have to walk your own path." I'm sorry if I may have butchered the plot a bit. I have not watched Boku no Hero Academia yet. This is what I managed to get it from all my friends constantly spoiling me.
It sounds good though.
It sounds really similar to Little Witch Academia.
Yeah, it does in a lot of ways. And I think Boku no Hero, again, I haven't seen either, but like a lot of people talk about how it pays homage to a lot of old comic books. And I think Little Witch in a lot of ways pays homage to some things. Like there is one song in the show which is basically the like main theme to Monty Python: The Holy Grail. You know, it's got all these influences in the show itself. And when you consider like the people who made the show are Studio Trigger, who are people who constantly flaunt their influences on their sleeves. They came from Gainax, which is also called the Otaku Studio back in the day. Like people like Hideaki Anno and Kazura Tsuumaki, who would who like love to pay homage and reference things in like Evangelion, Karikano, Fooly Cooly, and then Gurren Lagann with like Hiroyuki Maishi has a lot of callbacks to old mecha anime and stuff. It just fits with that theme of Little Witch of like Akko constantly showing how much she loves one thing and then trying to pay it back with her in her magic in the same way. That's the other thing. Is like the other great thing about it is that like one of the main inspirations for Akko is Chariot, and she's constantly trying to like spread the love of magic that Chariot gave to her, and the same way she just have fun with it. So I think I'm repeating stuff now.
All right.
Should have had notes. All of this is unscripted. I should have had like a checklist of things I needed to talk about.
Well, considering that this is all unscripted, you actually did quite a pretty damn well job.
I'm trying also to avoid spoilers, so that's kind of a hard aspect of it.
But one thing I want to ask before we conclude soon, that if you have a chance to rewatch Little Witch Academia, what would be like the thing that you probably want to look out the most, like maybe for the newer viewers? Like what should you pay the most attention to if you want to enjoy the fullest of the show?
I don't really know. I mean, for me, it's just going to be enjoying watching Akko again because she was always the thing I thought held the show together. And really, I think her character is very realistic in a way that is, like I said earlier, you can get secondhand embarrassment from her when when she's at her lowest points or at her highest points when she's like super excited about something. And I think when you learn to empathize with that, even if you do find her annoying, which I know a lot of people do, and I understand why, even if you do find her annoying, though, I encourage you to like look at her as a character and think, and just try to understand where she's coming from, why she acts the way she does, and I think you'll find a flawed but extremely lovable character who will stick with you for a while. Even like the supporting cast, who I've heard, Yo Yoshinari wants to make a new Little Witch season or something like that to go into more depth with all the side characters. But like even them, who don't get a lot of development a lot of the time, except for a few episodes maybe, you can still understand where they're coming from a lot of the time. Like Susie, you never go into her backstory much, but you just get this idea that like she's just this misanthropic person who's probably been alienated by a lot of other people because of her weird obsessions, and so she's like kind of secluded herself to mushrooms and potions and stuff. Like again, there's that idea of like being obsessed with something and it kind of dictating most of your life. But then like a lot of times you pay attention to Susie, when she looks at Akko, like she smiles a lot, and it's just one of those small details that you don't see or you don't really notice a lot of the time when you're watching it. But when you do, it makes you understand the significance of Akko to other people in the show. Same thing with like Lotte, who a lot of Lotte's episodes revolve around the idea of fandom. I won't spoil anything for that.
Oh yeah, another question. Should you watch the Little Witch Academia's movie first, or can you just jump straight into the TV series?
You can do it either way. Like I watched the movies first because the show came out 2 years after the second movie. The first one was 2013, the second one was 2015, then the show was earlier this year. So like if you want a quick, enjoyable experience, then I'd definitely say go to the movies. Uh, but either way, like the show is a great point to start if you want. And the movies don't really have as much like detail on the like in the background of each character. They're all just they're just all characterized by their baseline personalities. But then the show will go into more detail, especially with Akko. It's just a longer ride essentially, but with more depth in both themes and character development.
All right, so I think that's about it.
I think so.
So, do you have any last thoughts that you want to share before we end?
I've been meaning to write because I like every night, every day, at some point I have like scripted out in my head a blog just titled "The Most Relatable Thing About Akko," which even in this podcast, like I started it basically by quoting some of the things I had like imprinted in my head from this blog I have not written. I've been wanting to write is basically explaining everything, but I think a lot of the stuff I've said here covers the basic aspects of the character Akko. And to say a little thing about the show first, because I really just talked about the character who sort of embodies a lot of what the show's about, but like just to actually say something about the show, like it is a show for kids that anyone at any age can enjoy. Like if you're pretty young and you just want like a fun time, you can get that. But if you want a nice little lesson about friendship and a fandom, then yeah, you can watch that too if you're a little bit older. Because I'm 18 and I'm a man child. This show is great. But also like for anyone looking at like the technical aspects of the show, like the animation, which is it looks really nice a lot of the time. The later episodes are a little stilted, as I said before, but like the directing is also really enjoyable. It's very comedic. Like it has a lot of great timing, and a lot of the shots just flow together really well. So I'd say there's something for everyone in the show. That's about it. I think.
Right. So I'm probably also gonna check out this show because I've been meaning to watch it ever since it came out on Netflix, but I just really couldn't find the time because exams.
Yeah.
All right.
My sister finished each season in one day.
Yeah, I'm probably just gonna binge it while I'm on the aeroplane or something.
Sweet, do it. 10 out of 10.
It's either Little Witch Academia or the Evangelion movies. I have not decided yet.
I've been rewatching the rebuilds just in preparation for that podcast because I don't really remember them well. So I watched the first one yesterday.
Alright, so I think we're just ending off here. Alright, thank you guys for joining for this short little podcast on why you should watch Little Witch Academia and why it's so enjoyable. I hope you all enjoyed. Although Zero is left, Hans and I will be signing out here. Right? Any more last thoughts, Hans?
Little Witch is the greatest show ever made. It's a 10 out of 10. Every flaw about the show doesn't matter. It's objectively the greatest thing ever. It's perfect.
All right, I think that's about it.
If you don't like it, you don't like life in America. That's gonna be my last word sometime.
All right, we'll be signing out now. This was the PodCats on Little Witch Academia. Peace out, guys.
Bye.